All right, Devin. So we move on into the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
The next scenes are interesting. One is relatively serious. The Trade Federation is continuing conversations with Sidious, and you know he's it's evident that he's pulling the strings, you know, and he's maneuvering things, but he doesn't feel that like the Queen's a threat.
Clearly,
yeah. I mean, he's this girl, right? She isn't a threat, and then we move back underwater, and then we have this interaction with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Before we get to the underwater stuff, again, going back to the politics, one of the big hits against the Phantom Menace is the political stuff isn't that interesting. Up to this point, we're about 20 minutes into the film. I don't feel that way. I still feel interested in it. Where do you land when you think of, at this point, the politics? Are you okay with it?
I'm okay now with it, but honestly, like even I don't even want to say like I had a disdain for it to begin with. I think that it was just tougher for me to track who was who and what was going on.
Sure.
And so for me, it was just a matter of trying to keep pace with that while understanding how this was going to fit into the greater story.
Yeah, and one of the things that the prequels, I think, missed is the opportunity to explore Padme Amidala's situation a little bit more. They do, in the Phantom Menace especially. Attack of the Clones. But I felt like by the end of the trilogy, she was diminished in her role.
Absolutely.
And it's these moments how this girl, I mean, she's a teenager, how she kind of overcomes people's perceptions of her. I mean, the leadership situation she finds herself in is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And so I like that, like, no one's given her a shot,
right?
Including a Sith Lord,
right?
Maybe he's so manipulative. We don't know if he's just saying that because he wants to manipulate the situation a certain way,
right?
So we have that, but then we go back underwater and we have this, interaction between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Jar Jar.
Yeah.
They lose power.
Yeah.
There's this back and forth, between the characters. In the Phantom Menace, for me, this is the moment that sort of harkens back to some original trilogy stuff. One of the things that made the original trilogy so good, though, was this kind of witty banter back and forth.
Right.
I think I know the answer, but does the Phantom Menace have witty banter? Does it work?
Okay, so does it have witty banter? Yes.
Yeah.
I think, we have to understand that we're comparing it to itself. If we're trying to compare this, whether it's this film or this moment in the film, to anything that's part of the original trilogy, everything else is going to lose, right?
Yeah.
Most likely.
That
in mind, does the witty banter work? I think it does here with these characters. I think what we see in the original trilogy is the characters that have the witty banter actually have an affinity for one another. Where right now, Jar Jar is little more than as Qui-Gon puts it, a navigator for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think, does it work? Sure. Is it comparable to the other witty banter that we see throughout the Star Wars galaxy? No.
Yeah.
But I will tell you what I do love, though, is the creature design here is amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like something that could actually be from our own oceans. Some prehistoric thing. And I just think, and you had mentioned the sound as well.
Yeah. It sounds pretty stunning. And if you go back and watch the movie, it's fascinating because you forget not only is the creature set design, all the background, cities, locations, but the sound is out of control. There's a moment where, of course, they lose power. Just the sounds of this underwater vessel losing power, is fascinating in of itself. They regain power. Lights come on. Totally different fish is in front of them. They start running. Right. And then the one that got him out of the jam earlier shows up. Right. And the sound it makes as it opens its mouth is just incredible.
Police are dying here.
Just relax. We're not in trouble yet.
What yet? Monsters out there, leaking in here, all sinking and no power? When are you thinking we're in trouble?
Power's back.
Huh?
things. I've enjoyed all the sequel trilogy. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the standalone films. I found Solo to have some amazing sound design done, and then but when I look back at these prequels, I have. That's a high bar. Right. And I think that's one of the things people forget when they look at the prequels is just how well all this stuff was done when it comes to sound, backgrounds, even special effects. 1999, it still stands up.
Yeah, it's pretty intense on that level. I would just echo that. I mean, we look at what the Foley artists and the sound design team did here, and throughout the trilogies, really. It's almost unmatched, and I will say it's unmatched certainly from anything within that era.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think, sadly, the prequels they've been a punching bag for so long. Now it seems to be like The Last Jedi and some other things that Disney is doing. But as the punching bag stops and you kind of start looking at this movie, there are some things that they did that truly is still standing the test of time. Some of the effects still stand up.
It's almost like Lucas knew what he was doing. Almost.